pleasure of introducing to you Sister Janice Harris. She serves currently as president of the Shelbyville, Kentucky area NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. She is also the conference membership chair for the entire Kentucky NAACP. During Sister Harris's tenure with the NAACP, she has increased membership in her local branch to more than 100 members. She has worked to increase voter turnout in her community, chartered its first local NAACP Youth Council, and is currently leading the local branch through the process of erecting the first historical lynching marker in the state of Kentucky to memorialize the 6 documented lynchings of African Americans that occurred in Shelby County. Sister Harris is a 1991 graduate of Kentucky State University, where she earned an associate's degree in office administration. She currently works as an executive secretary and office manager for the Kentucky Department of Education's Office of Education Technology. Sister Harris is an active member of Canaan Christian Church here in Louisville, Kentucky, where she serves as the 3rd Sunday coordinator in the children's ministry and works with the children's choir. Her passion is teaching children to love Jesus and leading them to develop relationships with God. Sister Harris, you have been in the BCS, Black Church Studies orbit for about 3 years. It is a pleasure to welcome you to this consultation. We eagerly await your presentation and welcome you to teach us. The floor is yours for the next hour. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kauser, and my fellow colleagues. I can't go without saying hello to Dr. Callan Gray, who is my homeboy and my confidant, and thank you for the prayers that you have put up for me already this morning. I'm very honored to be able to participate in the Black Studies consultation and to share a bit of history about the Kentucky NAACP. A couple of years ago, Dr. Kauser and I had the opportunity to spend several days talking about the role of the Kentucky NAACP and the rural Black church. The Black church and the Black church leaders, as well as members of the congregations, have always been in the struggle with civil rights. The Black church has a safe haven for civil rights movement and was a place where we could go to have our meetings and to organize. The NAACP could not be as successful without the partnership of the Black church. So I'm very excited to be sharing this history with you today. The next slide, please. The National Association for the Advancement of Colored People was founded in 1909 in response to the ongoing violence against Black people that occurred in 1908 during the deadly riots in the city of Springfield, Illinois. Such eruptions of anti-Black violence was the final tipping point that led to the creation of the NAACP. Appalled by the violence, a group of white liberals that included Mary White Ovington, Oswald Garson Villard, William English Wallings, and Dr. Henry Moskowitz issued a call for a meeting to discuss racial justice. Some 60 people, 7 of whom were African American, including W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells Barnett, and Mary Church Terrell, signed the call and was released on the call was released on the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The NAACP aimed to secure for all people the rights guaranteed in the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments of the United States Constitution. Next slide. The mission and the vision: to ensure the political, education, and social economic equality of rights in order to eliminate race-based discrimination and ensure health and well-being of all persons. The NAACP was established in New York City in 1910 and named a board of directors as well as the first president, Moorfield Story, a white constitutional lawyer and former president of the American Bar Association. Despite a foundational commitment to multiracial membership, Du Bois was the only African American among the organization's original executives. He was made director of publications and research, and in 1910 established the official journal of the NAACP, the Crisis Magazine as we know it today. The membership in our organization has grown to over 500,000 over the years, and it later moved its headquarters to Baltimore, with regional offices in New York, Michigan, Georgia, Maryland, Texas, Colorado, and California. Right now, Derek Johnson currently serves as president and CEO of the NAACP, a title he has held since October of 2017. President Johnson formerly served as vice chairman of the NAACP National Board of Directors, as well as state president for the Mississippi State Conference NAACP. He's a long-standing member and leader of the NAACP. Mr. Johnson has helped guide the association through a period of re-envisioning and reinvigoration. President Johnson is frequently featured on CNN, MSNBC, CBS, and ABC, and many others, advocating on behalf of the Black community and all those who are affected by systematic oppression and prejudice. Next slide, please. Now, we fast forward to the 21st century. Inspired by the call of 1909, in the fall of 2011, the NAACP launched a process to develop its strategic direction and plan, creating a powerful vision for the future and setting organizational goals. The 6 NAACP game changers address the major areas of inequality facing African Americans and is the main focus for our work today. They are economic sustainability, a chance to live the American dream for all, every person to have equal opportunity to achieve economic success, sustainability, and financial security. Education, a free, high-quality public education for all. Health, everyone will have equal access to affordable, high-quality health care, no matter the race. Public safety and criminal justice, fair justice for all. Stop racially motivated policing, racially biased, discriminatory, and mandatory minimum sentencing. Abolish the death penalty at the state and federal level, as well as in the military, and make our communities safer. Voting rights and political representation. Oh, haven't we been there? Protect and enhance the voting rights. Every American deserves to have free, open, equal, and protected access to the vote and fair representation at all levels of political process. 2020 has definitely shown us that. And lastly, the last game changer, expand youth and young adult engagement. The NAACP is expanding the presence of youth conscience in every aspect of the association. Young adult engagement will be key in policy research, development, and advocacy on all levels. Greater support is being made to enhance the capacity for our local units to recruit, engage, train, and retain young adults. Next slide. Now the question that I have been asked to discuss with you today: what connects Kentucky to the NAACP, the national office? Kentucky plays a large role in the NAACP. As I mentioned earlier, William English Walling was an American labor reformer and socialist Republican born into a wealthy family in Louisville, Kentucky. He founded the National Women's Trade Union League in 1903. He was moved by the investigation of the Springfield race riot and wrote an article, The Race War in the North. In that article, he said, the spirit of the abolitionists of Lincoln and Lovejoy must be revived. He appealed for a large and powerful body of citizens to come to their aid. He was among the co-founders of the NAACP. In 1914, only 5 years after the national organization was founded, Kentucky organized its first NAACP chapter in Louisville, Kentucky. The president of that branch was Dr. C.H. Parrish. Then came Hopkinsville branch, who organized in 1919, followed by Paducah in 1927. And during the 30s and the 40s, several other branches developed. Lexington also becoming another one of the largest branches in the state. Next slide. In 1948, Kentucky State Conference was organized and formed in Hopkinsville, Kentucky. Next slide. There are 11 men who have led the Kentucky NAACP State Conference. I will name them: Lewis McHenry, James Crumlin, J. Earl Deering, Harry McAlpin, Reverend Matthew Petway, Furman Knox, Edgar Wallace, John Johnson, William Cofield, Raoul Cunningham, and our current president, Marcus Ray. I choose to highlight the last 4 past presidents, personally because I know them and I've had opportunity to be in their company. 3 of them have been named to the Kentucky Civil Rights Hall of Fame because of their significant contributions to Kentucky's progress in the area of civil and human rights. In 2005, John Johnson was named. He was then the former president of the Franklin Simpson County branch of the NAACP. Served as a chief programs officer for the National NAACP. He worked for the Kentucky Commission on Human Rights, as well as the Louisville and Jefferson County Human Rights Commission. He traveled the world on behalf of the NAACP to improve human rights and fairness. He directed programs to help military veterans, spur economic development for poor people, increase voter registration, encouraged young entrepreneurs, and fostered humane treatment for prison inmates. He fought discrimination against African American military personnel in Germany and made humanitarian visits to Zimbabwe, Africa. In 2014, William Cofield was named to the honor. He was president of the Kentucky NAACP for 28 years before retiring from that position in 2013. He dedicated his life to equal rights in the housing, employment, and public accommodations on the national, state, and local level as a lifetime member of the NAACP. In 1986, he was elected to the National NAACP Board of Directors. As a member of the National Board, he helped promote dynamic young leaders like the former National NAACP President Benjamin Jealous, who increased the organization's youth membership. During his tenure, the Kentucky NAACP expanded its chapters, registered more youth members, developed scholarship programs, and increased outreach to other minority groups. Also, in 2003, Raoul Cunningham was named. When he was 14 years old, he was a member of the NAACP Youth Chapter, assisting with voter registration and participating in picketing segregated establishments in Louisville, Kentucky. He was instrumental in breaking down the racial barriers since the 1960s, particularly in the area of public accommodations and housing. He helped to form the coalitions that led to the passage of fair housing laws in Kentucky. In 2000, he joined the national staff of the NAACP and currently serves on the National Board of Directors. And lastly, our current president, Marcus Ray, was a pioneer for racial equality probably before he even knew about the civil rights struggles that helped define the country in the late 1960s. In 1983, he was installed as president of the Hardin County branch, and in 2019 was elected our current president of the state conference. He made a statement, "The mission of the NAACP is still important. We've gained a lot of ground over the last 50 years, but we have to keep striving until every system of oppression has been overcome." Next slide. Kentucky hosted the first National NAACP Convention in 1979. Next slide. There are 40 NAACP branches and 15 youth college branches currently in Kentucky. Next slide. Oh, I'm not going to leave the women out. We have made milestones in Kentucky in the NAACP. In 1964, Alberta Jones was the first woman prosecutor in Kentucky, passed the Kentucky bar exam in 1959. Sadly, in 1965, she was murdered. She was beaten and her body was tossed off the Sherman-Mitten Bridge in Louisville. Her case still remains unsolved. Georgia Davis Powers was the first person of color and the first woman elected to serve in the Kentucky Senate. She was a member of the Louisville branch. I'm proud to say from Shelbyville, Dr. Elaine Ferris became the first African-American superintendent when she was selected as Shelby County Public Schools superintendent. And Reverend Rondalyn Randolph from Owensboro, who's the current president, was the first African-American woman to pastor a Baptist church in Western Kentucky. And most recently, Louisville member Representative Attica Scott was arrested in Louisville during the Breonna Taylor protests. She was charged with felony first-degree rioting, misdemeanor failure to disperse, and a misdemeanor unlawful assembly. The charges were later dismissed. Next slide. Want to talk to you about the timeline of civil rights achievements and political victories. Over the next slide, please. 1917, Louisville, Kentucky was the site of the first successful legal victory for the National NAACP. The U.S. Supreme Court declared that the city's residential segregation law was unconstitutional in the case of Buchanan versus Warley. Next slide. In 1920, the Frankfort branch on 2 occasions played a role in saving African American men from execution in both Richmond and Lynch, Kentucky. Next slide. In 1935, Kentucky ultimately waged a successful campaign, Hale versus Kentucky, to ensure that African Americans were no longer excluded from serving on juries. Next slide. In 1940, the Kentucky branch of the NAACP gained national recognition as early as 1940 in Louisville, Kentucky. The NAACP had already supported several court cases to protest the unequal pay of African American teachers. A teacher by the name of Valentine Virginia Dudley Abington, one of several school teachers in Louisville, who petitioned against the differential pay, became a plaintiff in an NAACP suit argued by Thurgood Marshall that led to the removal of a 15% salary discrepancy between Black and white teachers in the Louisville public schools. The case Abington versus Board of Education of Louisville, filed on December 5th, 1940, caused the school board to agree to pay equal pay, but only if Miss Abington from Jackson Junior High School dropped the lawsuit. The lawsuit was dropped, and the salaries of the teachers in Louisville no longer differed on the basis of race. As you see, in 1949, the NAACP urged successfully for the desegregation of the University of Kentucky's graduate school. Next slide. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruling, Brown versus the Board of Education, Kentucky chapters filed lawsuits against local school boards and their institutions and the retention of African American teachers. Next slide. In the 1960s, a massive upsurge for equality was successful in overturning laws prohibiting discrimination, first in public accommodations, then employment, then in housing. Next slide. In the 1970s, the NAACP celebrated its 75th anniversary. Kentucky filed complaints against continuing discrimination in higher education, successfully challenged the state's all-white police force, and fought for affirmative action for jobs in both public and private employment. Next slide. In the 1980s through the 1990s, Kentucky was the launching point for the NAACP's 1983 Overground Railroad March Against Voter Apathy, which started in Louisville and moved north through Ohio and Michigan. Next slide. On the following slides, you're going to see about some of the things that speak to the things that have happened today. The first one, Kentucky renews its call for the removal of the Confederate statue in the state capitol rotunda. In 2017, the NAACP chapter renewed its efforts to remove the statue of Jefferson Davis from the state capitol rotunda. State President Raul Cunningham said the statue was offensive to African Americans and that Davis, former president of the Confederate States of America, was falsely regarded as a hero. He was not. He was a traitor to the United States government, aside from the other convictions he had in regard to slavery. In June of 2020, that statue was removed from the state capitol. Next slide. Kentucky restores voting rights for thousands of ex-felons. At a time when our country is focused on the inequalities of criminal justice system, ending the discriminatory system of felon disenfranchisement has to be a part of any solution towards curbing mass incarceration. On December 12, 2019, Governor Andy Beshear issued an executive order that automatically restored the right to vote and the right to hold public office to the Kentuckians who were convicted of nonviolent felonies under Kentucky law and who have repaid their debt to society by completing their sentences. The Kentucky Conference of NAACP played a vital role in helping to make this possible, and we were there at that signing. Next slide, please. In August of 2020, State Representative Attica Scott filed the Breonna law bill. The bill proposing legislation that would end the use of no-knock warrants in Kentucky. mandate alcohol and drug testing in the event someone is shot and killed by police, and require officers' body cameras be activated at least 5 minutes before and after a warrant is served. That bill is currently being reviewed in the General Assembly as we speak. Next slide. State lawmakers approved and sent Bashir State Senate Bill 1 that would take authority for deciding the manner of an election away from our governor and the Secretary of State and give it to lawmakers. Kentucky NAACP calls this election bill voter suppression. This measure also limits the governor's emergency executive order. The state NAACP opposes this bill. This would set Kentucky back in terms of progressive civic engagement. Next slide, please. 2020 election. Our vote, our voice. Kentucky NAACP branches across the state held multiple campaigns to get Black voters registered and out to vote for the 2020 election. It outlined some of the myths of why Blacks are skeptical of political establishment, unhappy with the candidate choices, frustrated with structural and institutional racism, slow job growth, no wage growth, the rising cost of healthcare, the rising cost of college, and rising cost of housing, and disturbed by the police violence. Next slide. We've got a lot of ongoing projects that are going on with the Kentucky State NAACP. We are done dying. Next slide. During 20 and 21, COVID-19 crisis has hit the NAACP. We are done dying. Next slide. The NAACP across the nation has put together a list of coronavirus response and advocacy resources to help answer the questions. Kentucky has been spreading the word and trying to get this information into the hands of as many as possible in the Black communities. We've used the Black churches, we've used Black organizations, and so forth to get this message out. And you see the link to the resources that are on our website. Next slide, please. The COVID-19 vaccine racial disparity. Kentucky NAACP chapters are concerned that the state's data will show racial disparities in the vaccines. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention shows only 5.4% of those who've received the vaccine so far are Black, while 60.40% are white. The Louisville branch, as well as other branches across the state, are exploring how it can help get the facts out to the Black community, developing large public relation campaigns that work in tandem with leaders in the Black community, including our churches, media, labor unions, fraternities, and sororities. That's the key. Next slide, please. Another issue has been our environmental issues. The Kentucky NAACP is currently working on several environmental projects. Ongoing solar installation initiative in the Parkland neighborhood community in Louisville, Kentucky is being undergone right now. We've addressed Bowling Green Commission on Housing Development Project, and it has been approved. We've provided written testimony to the Public Service Commission on utility rate increases. We've submitted a report to the Air Pollution Control District on changes and violations and enforcement. Lastly, We're developing a campaign, You Are the Future, Voice of Where We Are Going, to spark youth interest in environmental careers. Our next slide, please. We're advocating for anti-lynching bills. The Martin Management Group donated $25,000 to the Kentucky NAACP for this very effort. Currently, my local branch, the Shelbyville Area NAACP, along with our community partners, have been working on a 3-year project. Next slide, please. We've been working on this community project with the Equal Justice Initiative out of Montgomery, Alabama. It's called the Community Remembrance Project. It helps communities erect historical markers, telling the stories of those who have been lynched in local communities. Much research has gone into this project, not only on the local level, but also on the national level. And on April the 10th of this year, I'm happy to report that Kentucky will erect its first markers, lynching markers. In Shelby County, we will be putting up 3 markers to memorialize the deaths of 6 individuals in Shelby County. Next slide, please. We are not doing this work alone. Who are our national partners that's working with us? The National NAACP works in partnership with individuals and other organizations that embrace this and support the mission of the NAACP. It has signed memorandums of agreements, understandings with several organizations, solidifying our partnerships and mutual commitment to working together to achieve the mission of the NAACP, support the work of our partners, and ensure that equality and equal justice under the law are indeed reality for our society. Next slide, please. On this slide, you will see several organizations listed. The Alpha Kappa Alpha, Deltas, National Bar Association, Economic Policy Institute, National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executive, the Omegas, the Lesbian, Gay, Bisexual, Transgender Community Center, the NID. Next slide, please. The National Organization of Black Law Enforcement, the Pan-African Climate Environmental Justice, the Tides Foundation. Next slide, please. But we have also not only national organizations, but our Kentucky partners are the League of Women Voters, the ACLU, Pathways Incorporated, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth. These people and these organizations are also supporting the NAACP and working with us. Next slide. As I close, I pose this question to you. How can you help the NAACP? This month, we've celebrated our 112th year anniversary. Next slide. The NAACP depends on talented, dedicated people like you. Your membership helps us to continue the fight for equality and justice. The events of the day make it clear that our work is not done and is more challenging than ever as we work to preserve our endangered democratic process and ensure a society in which all individuals have equal rights without discrimination based on race. Next slide. Today, the NAACP launches the Bishop William H. Graves Senior Memorial Membership Campaign. Whisper a prayer. Bishop Graves, a trailblazer for justice and equality, was a 27-year member of the NAACP National Board of Directors and the 42nd Bishop of the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church, presiding over the First Episcopal District in Memphis from 1982 to 2010. One of the nation's most consequential religious and civic leaders, he was actively involved in the social and political issues facing disadvantaged communities. With his quiet, strong demeanor, Bishop Graves was a spiritual giant who knew hardships and blessings of second chances. A membership helped support the NAACP, advocate, and answer the call for an equal society. This campaign will run through May 31st of this year. Next slide. You might ask, well, what does it cost? A regular membership to the NAACP 1 year is only $30. But I challenge you to join as a Silver Life member. That's what I am working on. That is $750, and you're a member for life. There are several levels. There's the Gold Life, the Diamond Life, and of course, there's the corporate annual membership. Next slide, please. Not only are we reaching the adults, but we're working again with our youth. We have youth memberships. You can sponsor within your churches or within your organization's youth. That membership is only $15. There's also youth junior life memberships and bronze life membership levels that youth can be involved in. Next slide, please. If you want more information on how to join as an NAACP member, please visit our website at naacp.org/membership and complete your membership today. Next slide. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you all today. And I hope that something I have said has sparked not only memories, but a challenge to you to join our organization and be more involved in the NAACP. Thank you.
Sister Janice Harris, that was outstanding work. Applause to you for an outstanding work documenting the history of the Kentucky NAACP and connecting it to the national NAACP. And also for you being an evangelist. Thank you because you just evangelized. And I'm going to join the NAACP today because you asked. So thank you for that altar call, which had it's a varied and colored altar call. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
We had several questions here in the chat. Let me start with, yeah, you can exhale. You are so funny.
Jesus.
Thank you, Jesus.
I got to call on in 1 minute. Just give me a minute. Oh, Jesus. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, God. Thank you, Lord. It's all through him.
Thank you, Jesus.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm ready.
Thank you, preacher. First of all, have there been any females as president of the Kentucky NAACP? That's one question. My second question, have there been any females as leaders of the national NAACP? If yes, who? If not, why not?
Right now, there has not been a female president in the Kentucky State Conference of the NAACP. We're still reaching out there. There's a lot of women involved in Kentucky, but we're still not at that point yet. And I don't believe, I'm pretty sure that there has not been a national woman president, but we have had a national woman serve as the board president in the name of, and her name fails me right now. I can't think of her name.
Bush is her last name, if my memory serves you right. Can't
Say
remember
it
her
again.
first name. Bush, I believe, was her last name. I cannot
Early
remember.
Evers Williams, the widow of Medgar Evers.
Yes.
No. There was a Bush. There was another chairman of the board other than her, or executive director for a short period of time.
Yes, you are correct. I am bad on my history notes in trying to keep up. I apologize for that.
Let me stay with that question, and we have several questions here in the chat, but we have 20 minutes, so we can stretch out a little bit on this. Janice, what about you?
What about me?
What about you as president of the Kentucky NAACP? In other words, the same question that we asked Temple, what are the qualifications, what are the characteristics that people are looking for in a pastoral search committee? Similarly, what are the characteristics that those who choose the state president, what are they looking for?
I'm one that leads from behind. I'm the local president of my local branch. I love it. I'm there to push that person on, but I don't aspire to be the president. But I am working hard alongside the presidents of the NAACP. I'm still learning. Yes. I'm still growing in social justice.
Yes.
And I feel it's going to take a strong person.
Yes.
That has that knowledge base.
Yes.
And I'm all for being there and helping and pushing, but I don't think I'm that person right now.
And all that stuff that y'all just heard is the reason why she's going to be the next statewide president of the NAACP.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, Callan.
Thank you. I think the collective church here is wanting to speak that into being and to affirm your outstanding leadership.
I just believe in dedication, and I believe in working hard to achieve those goals.
Yes, ma'am.
So if God puts it in my path, it will be my path. But if he does not, I'm okay with that. I can move forward in other areas.
All right, we understand. But we're going to pray hard that the Lord puts it in your path.
We're going to pray hard and give you some money.
Because that helps as well. And just to make a note that the Legal Defense Fund, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, I think Sherlyn Eiffel is the leader of that group, and that the Legal Defense Fund has had significant female leadership at its executive level for a while. Just a footnote on that. Second question about solar installation in the Parkland neighborhood here in Louisville. How is that solar installation project funded, and who is it for? Is it for private homes, public housing? Who is it for?
I'm looking right now back for my notes on that. The person, Anitra Gabson, is our state environmental protection person. She is the chairperson for that. She is the one that is leading that portion of it, and she would be the one that would be able to give the answers to that. I would be happy to put her information, look up her information and put it in the chat, but she is the one that has pulled that environmental piece together and has worked hard. She has been working on projects and doing reports and so forth, and leading that effort for the Kentucky State Conference. Again, her name is Anitra Gabson.
Thank you for that. I have a question I want to ask you, and then let me get this one, which I think is a quick answer. Is the NAACP associated with a group called Age Friendly Louisville?
I am not aware of that. Age Friendly Louisville.
Yes.
Is that an organization that is based in Louisville, Kentucky?
Loretta, can you speak to that, please? Loretta, can you speak to that?
Yes, I was trying to get unmuted. Yes, Age Friendly Louisville is a group that's working with U of L, City of Louisville, with KIPTA, and they are working. Some of the initiatives that you are talking about are initiatives that they are undertaking. So I'm on the executive committee, and so I will do what I can to connect the two of you and make a referral. But I believe there's so much going on. They are focusing on housing, livable housing. So it's livable cities is the overall project. And age-friendly Louisville, you can go to their website. They have a website, and you can read. And they have objectives and all. So it's a pretty big project that I believe NAACP and Age Friendly can work together.
I will be happy to share that information with the president of the local Louisville branch, who is Raul Cunningham, and make sure that he gets that information. Ms. Baker, I'm writing your name down as well, and I'll make sure that you all get connected. If you would mind putting your contact information in the chat, I'll make sure that Raul gets that information so that you all can connect up, okay?
I'll do it.
Janice, the next question, what is involved in starting a new chapter? I'm a member of the Nashville, Tennessee branch, but live in a farther out suburb in a county that seems large enough to have its own branch. What would be involved in starting a branch?
Okay, when Shelby County started its branch, you have to have 100 members right off the bat to charter a chapter. So you have to have 100 members. That's the very first thing. You've got to, what Shelby County did in revamping our chapter, because our chapter was there for a while and then it kind of fell to the side, and in 2010 it revitalized itself. So in 2010 we went out and we got 100 people to say, yes, I want to be a member. We got their memberships in hand, and we sent those to the state conference. The state conference then sanctioned that branch, and then there's a process that goes to the national board, and the national board then approves, reviews the documentation, approves, and charters the branch. But the work really has to be at the local level. You've got to really work hard to get the people involved and stay involved. It's not easy to get people involved in organizations. As I work with the Shelbyville branch, we've got over 100 members in the branch. But like it is, as well as with church, you will have a whole slew of people saying, I'm on the roll. But when it comes down to the work, that's where we suffer. So getting that branch together, but keeping people focused on, do surveys, get the interest of what you want to look at within your community. What do you want to, what issues are you trying to drive home, and focus on those, and then get the people behind you on that. That's the way that you can establish a successful, thriving branch and chapter.
That sounds like organizing to me, Janice. I mean, that's basically what that sounds like.
It is an organization. It is organizing. There's no way around it. You've got to have people like-minded and ready to work and ready to be a part of it to make it successful. You know, this is not an easy work. Doing the work of the NAACP, it's not easy. I know now, I say this on a personal manner, during this time right now when we had all this uprising of hatred and so forth, I literally have been frightened for my own life, for my home, for my family, because we don't know the anger that's out there. But my chapter, I have mentioned this to the chapter, and, you know, they have embraced and said, you know, we're here, we're with you, we're standing behind, you know, so it's not an easy road, being a member of the NAACP and being leaders in this type of an organization. But when people realize that you've got more than just you working together, when we've got other partnerships working together, we're not standing alone. We've got other organizations working with us, so that helps.
Janice, to that question, can you speak to the relationships that churches have, if any, to your branch, or not?
I could not do anything without the church. I got the pastors, and Callan knows this, I got them on speed dial. Whenever I need something, I go to the church first. I get the pastors involved. I tell them I need this. We need to talk about this. We need to get this out to your members. I'm always dropping off some type of paper or something at to any announcements that we have. The church is where we start, and it's where we get our message out. The church is our biggest audience, so we kind of work very much in Shelby County through the church. They're our first advocate that we go to.
And if I can add to that, Dr.
Yes,
Kauser, one of the biggest threats to that partnership of social justice and the Black church are Black churches that have been taken over by this Redeemer logic that Dr. Taylor was talking about yesterday. There are a lot of particularly rural churches who are being co-opted by a theology that is an anti-Black theology masked under the blood of Jesus Christ.
And so are those churches Black, led and populated by Black people?
Yes, they are led by Black pastors who are partnering with evangelicals in the name of racial peace. And so what comes out of that is Black pastors telling their parishioners and their members that we don't need civil rights anymore. We have Jesus. So that's the biggest threat. And that's what leaders like Janice is having to fight with. And so there needs to be, as all in other spaces, a counter narrative and a theological conversation that has to happen in these communities to help to reclaim with African Americans and rural communities that this is not good for them, that the tradition that we have come to as far as we've come is still needed and still alive.
Yes.
And I must say that the Shelby County branch of the NAACP was not revived. It was a resurrection. And the Jesus of that resurrection was Janice Harris. I rest my case.
Thank you. Callan mentioned something. I wanted to say that, but I wasn't sure how I could get that out. I'm glad that Callan covered that for me. But yes, we have experienced that in Shelby County. And
Janice, are those pastors, what incentivizes those pastors to go to the Neo-Redeemer side?
I think it's recognition, prestige. These are small churches, and they're thinking that they have that opportunity to be in the know, and it's more about prestige than anything. It's what I've seen, and that's my personal viewpoint. But I see it as the showboating of wanting to be this, but then laying us aside. But I have tried, and our branch has tried to keep forcing the issue. I've went to some meetings when I wasn't invited to the meetings and said, hey, I'm gonna be a part of this. And I've asked the difficult questions. And I think that's what's made us stay strong in Shelby County. We're not gonna let it happen, is what we're trying to keep our community, our Black community and our Black churches involved in civil rights.
So
we can't
Janice,
make it without it.
You're describing a group of Black pastors and churches that support the NAACP, a group of Black churches that are working either actively by commission or omission against the NAACP and its interests. Is that correct?
That's correct. Pretty much so.
And those churches that are working against the NAACP, what denominations are they part of?
I believe
Are they non-denominational, Kojic, Baptist,
there
mainline?
are a couple of
Method?
both. There's
Okay.
Baptist, there is non-denominational. I'm trying to just think. Those are the main two. Yeah, right there.
So they get prestige, they get attention.
They get prestige through being, it's not only the church, but it's, let me touch on the political side. There's a political realm that are within these churches, that are working with these churches, that are bringing in those political views, and they're mixing in the church and the political view. If I can say that in that way,
Yes,
I don't.
yes.
You
So
understand what I'm trying to get
yes,
at?
ma'am, I do. So are you? Would you agree with this statement that there is a Trump element or Trumpist element that has infiltrated Black and white churches in Shelby County that supersedes the gospel of Jesus Christ?
Most definitely. I've known some people all my life through high school who's been we've been members. They know we're members of the NAACP. But when this Trump fascist, all the stuff that's happened with the president has come out, you know, you get on Facebook and you see all these comments and you see all these other, and I'm saying, these are church people. These are so-called friends of mine. And these are the views that they have on racial disparities, racial unity. It's very frightening, very frightening.
What, and we're coming up on 12:30 here in the East. What advice or counsel would you give us about the racial climate in small and rural towns in Kentucky?
Stay connected to the issues at hand. Make sure that you understand what is going on involving the culture of African Americans. Stay on top of the issues. You can't be in a silo. You've got to work and you've got to be involved. You've got to stay on top of what's going on around you. The church is so vital because the people in the church, they're not only coming for spiritual guidance, they're also coming some to get guidance on how to live just ordinary life. And so if you stay, the church has to stay vital to that and be open to that. So that's where I'm challenging the church to stay open to social justice, to racial, to what's going on around us as far as racism is concerned. We're the ones that can, if we can keep the prayers going and keep people lifted in that way, that can help them in their life, their everyday life. I think I answered that okay. I'm not good off the cuff, honey. I'm sorry.
You're just fine. Church, is there any other questions as we come up on 12:30 here for Sister Janice Harris?
I just want to say thank you for your work, Janice, and please let us know how we can help you in your work. It's good stuff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. One thing I did want to say, I'm not a sister. I'm just Janice Harris, but I'm a sister in Christ.
So are you okay if we continue to call you that? Are you?
That's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. But I did. Some people think that means that I'm a sister in the religious sense, but I'm a sister in Christ. My email address just got that name attached to it, so I just wanted you to know that.
The people who did that knew exactly what they were doing by attaching sister to that.
Okay.
So we affirm your
Thank
leadership. We are speaking into our prayers that you become, when the time is right, the Kentucky president of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. We're going to ask you to stay in the BCS orbit, BSC orbit, Black Church Studies orbit here at Louisville Seminary, so that we can continue to work with you and advance the goals of the NAACP, which are congruent with the goals of the Black Church of Jesus Christ.
Thank you. I most definitely will.